Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Real Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, not just another unicycling monkey.
Are you, though? I think you kind of are, though, right?
Those lines aren't for you to comment and judge. Just
Oh, okay,
you know,
sorry.
Like they're just throwaway lines, Andy.
I just had to comment on that one, though. All right.
I'm Pete Wright, your deleted scene.
Pete Wright, my monkey on a unicycle. Today we're talking about Minute 52, which begins with crickets in Italy and ends with a monkey on a unicycle. Pete. Joining us back on the show, we have the Movies by Minutes regulars, Travis Bowe and Robin Burdge. Hello.
Hello there.
Howdy.
So, this is the best. I mean, really, the cut from yesterday's minute to today's minute, like just leaving on that dead silence as the crowd just stared at Steve. It was just fantastic. Let's just talk about this
his
scene.
first line.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Tough crowd.
Especially because you could have started the transition at the back of the crowd with the text reading, November, Italy, that you could have just started there. But I love that they gave us just that little bit.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. We are on a stage at a camp 5 miles from the front, it says. And, it's very vague as to where this actually takes place. I'll try to figure that out as we get later in the minute. We see some maps. Very hard to tell. This was filmed, actually, in the forests in the Bourne Wood. You will see these forests again in Thor the Dark World and Avengers Age of Ultron. The forests are outside of Farnham, southwest of London. And that's apparently a very popular filming place for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that's where we are.
I thought I recognized that third tree on the left there.
Right. It looked so familiar. So familiar. Okay, we're getting into this USO tour that's now moving overseas. I did some digging about the USO tours. They were called the USO camp shows. It was a sub-branch of the USO. They had 4 circuits. They had the Victory Circuit, the Blue Circuit, the Hospital Circuit, and the Foxhole Circuit. The Victory and Blue Circuits did stateside tours, entertaining the military. And the Hospital Circuit obviously was visiting wounded. The Foxhole Circuit was the troop that went overseas. The first tour happened in October 41. And this is where, we've talked about this a little bit about when we're doing our montage, but people like Bob Hope, the Andrews sisters, Dinah Shore, all those different people were coming and entertaining the troops. Marlene Dietrich actually was somebody who came out on the Foxhole Circuit, popping up in Europe. And she did 2 USO tours during the war. And what was interesting is it says, this was a quote in Library of Congress, the first was to North Africa and Italy, where she became the first entertainer to reach rescued soldiers at Anzio. During her second tour, lasting 11 months, she entertained near the front in France and Germany. So I can't imagine that there's any sense of kind of what we're getting here, but the fact that we're in Italy, that there's this Anzio. She was entertaining rescued soldiers at Anzio, and Steve is going to rescue soldiers at Azzano, or that had been taken from Azzano. I was like, I wonder if they're like trying to like match this up. Sometimes they're trying to fit it into real things that had happened. I'm like, is Marlene Dietrich on this tour with Steve? I don't know. I like to think that now.
And why doesn't she come out? That's all I want to know. Like when he has some issues, he leaves. And Marlene Dietrich should come.
Perfect time for Stan Lee cameo as Marlene Dietrich comes out.
That just put something in my head that I'd never want to think about. So
I really like where we're going here is better Stan Lee cameos than the Stan Lee cameo we got. Like we should do a whole podcast on this.
Stan Lee in drag as Marlene Dietrich.
Looking somewhat like the female gremlin.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, sorry.
There was a bit in I did a bunch of research about Jack Kirby and specifically his time overseas when he went to fight. And there was a bit there about a USO thing coming to their base, and I want to say it was Marlene Dietrich.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but when you said, that name, it's like I I think there's something there. So just a little real world possible connection. I mean, and I was surprised to see them actually use USO here in the movie. I would have just assumed, that they just wouldn't, just in case there was any conflict there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are many points during this, at least, the war stuff, where I'm wondering, like, are they just kind of talking around things? You don't want to get too specific and maybe offend somebody that, their grandfather died in this. And
or just legal clearances. Sometimes it's easier to avoid having a USO logo than, putting it there. But
I wonder what the legalities are of that in a fictional story like this that's set in the real world. During World War II with all of this, we all know that USO tours were a thing. I just wonder, where's the line as far as I guess they're not showing it in any bad light or anything. So it's to that end, it's probably fine. And the USO is still around. They're still entertaining troops around the world. And so, I'm sure they probably were like, hey, it's great to, let more people, know that we're doing these sorts of things. And who knows, Chris Evans might have even, I wonder if I'm going to have to look and see if Chris Evans actually ever went out on a USO tour.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
He has.
Of course he has.
There you go. Yeah.
Was that Ron Howard?
Chris Evans, you Boy Scout. Oh, wait, Captain America.
He was actually teased for his small size on a tour that he did in 2016.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, all right, well, let's talk about this scene. So we get this moment. Steve is completely ill-prepared. The script isn't lining up with the audience, and the audience is not reacting the way he's expecting. How does this play for all of you?
What does he need a volunteer for? What? Like, if a soldier came on stage, is he going to lift him up, or is he going to punch him in the jaw?
Dance with him?
Or does he do magic tricks? Is that part of his act?
Maybe.
I like to think that he's doing strength demonstrations. I think that would make sense.
I would think so, yeah.
But I already volunteered. How do you think I got here? I think that's a solid comeback.
It is great. Yeah. That's a great heckle.
Ace burn. I think all of the burns are good, and that we actually define why he needs a shield when they start throwing crap at him. I think that's amazing. Such a great use.
It's always someone with eggs and tomatoes at a speech.
Yeah.
Well, I counted, and he got a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 3 for this show. So
they looked pretty fresh, though. They didn't look like Rotten Tomatoes.
You guys really burying yourselves with this joke. Let's move on with it. It's no descant.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Another question I had is these things were tours designed to entertain the troops, right? Are the girls really going to come and only have one song? I don't know. I was like, really?
Yeah, I had a problem with that.
But if this is their bit, I'm sure they're probably used to getting this slot between Bob Hope and Marlene Dietrich. So yeah, they would just probably come out, do the one song. Maybe he would do a little presentation, little feats of strength or something. Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they adapted this show for a USO audience. And yeah, why have the same shtick? Because you're not trying to sell bonds to soldiers, What is the...
Yeah.
Well, and I think that probably shows, for me at least, how disconnected Steve is from this whole event. He might legitimately not know that the girls actually have a lot of acts. They have a lot of songs that they do. He really doesn't know because they're performers and they perform. If they're professional performers, they're going to know more than one song. But the fact is, he really, they have not planned at all for this show in this context. And I think that's an important thing for us to know, just how uncomfortable it is for him that he is such a fish out of water here, and it happens very quickly, and then he draws his monkey, and then we get to move on.
It reflects poorly on Senator Brandt, because I imagine he's the one behind, we got to send Steve overseas, it'll be great. That sort of.
Well, yeah, because I imagine from his perspective, it's the photo opportunity. Let's get Captain America out there with real troops.
Yeah.
They'll love
entertaining
him.
the troops. They'll love him, and that will just get us even more Series E bonds. I mean, that's his whole thing. Because I was wondering, why is Brandt's aide still with Steve, over here in Italy? Is he a road manager now? What a weird thing for an aide to be doing. You'd think that they would just hire, the tour people, and they would actually be running this whole thing. But no, it's his aide is still there. I just don't understand kind of the relationship with all of that. So, but to that end, it just has to speak to, how much Brandt is really relying on every opportunity with this super soldier to just sell more bonds.
Yeah, I think Brandt sees Steve as his golden goose. He wants to keep him, but he's not going to go, 5 miles from the front.
Right.
So that's why his aide's here.
I think his aide would even be saying, do I have to go?
I have to call attention to Nice Boots Tinkerbell. Number one, that Peter Pan doesn't come out for 10 years, so I don't know how much Peter Pan was in the public consciousness. And also, Tinkerbell didn't wear boots. So wrong on both.
Tinkerbell could have been a pre-existing phrase of someone who dances around, twinkle toes, that sort of thing, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, homophobia is alive and well in 1943, so...
Yeah. Well, and, it's interesting because we were doing a count that we started with Father David when he was on of how many times that they called the troops ladies or things like that. I can't remember how high we got, maybe only up to 3, not that high. But it makes me think that this Tinkerbell line might be the next thing that fits in that grouping.
Yeah, it kind of fits in. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Peter Pan was around. I mean, there was a play, the novel and the play, but the film. Yeah. So it's what are they? I don't know. It is a weird thing to reference Tinkerbell of anything. I guess it's just because he's, singing and dancing, but still, I feel like there's probably a better reference that they could have pulled.
Snow White out by now? I don't know. I don't even think that's out yet.
The character who calls out Tinkerbell is, of course, Gilmore Hodge, who we saw back in boot camp, played by Lex Shrapnel. So he is back. I don't know if I ever actually made the connection until now that he is here.
Really?
I've always seen him later when they come back in. But I think this was the first time that I go, he's actually one of the people who's heckling him, which is kind of fun.
I wish when you get him later, when he sees Captain America return with the troops, spoilers, I wish he would see him and say, Steve?
Right.
Have that moment of recognition of Rogers, the guy that I was in boot camp with.
We're never given there are moments like that there's opportunity for these people to have that recognition of this is that person that I knew when he was this scrawny guy, like the loud jerk in the movie theater, like Gilmore Hodge. We had opportunities where they could have set something up for us so that we had those payoffs. I mean, I guess we don't need them, but still, especially in the case of Gilmore, it would have been a nice little moment to have with them, I guess.
I'm looking at the Google Ngram viewer, which searches Google Books for mentions of terms, and I can tell you with Google's authority that the word Tinkerbell began being used with some searchable, indexable frequency in 1942, but the play Peter and Wendy was originally published in 1911 or 1904. So it's been around a long time. Tinkerbell was around a long time. And I mean, from 1942, shut up. Lots of people talking about Tinkerbell.
Calling people Tinkerbell.
For what it's worth. Publishing, the word publishing. So it was in the vernacular, I'm just saying. For some reason, the word was out there. And I'm fascinated by that catch that now I'm thinking, okay, when this USO tour was in, what year did you say this was?
43.
Tail end.
They are really leaning on this language that is very, very new culturally, over the course of a year, especially without, internet. We're talking about people who read, and these soldiers, who knows how long they've been in the war, how long would they have had opportunistically to hear and read and integrate the word Tinkerbell into their vernacular? I'm fascinated by that. That's an awesome catch.
Yeah.
All right, back to whatever you were saying.
Well, I mean, but to that end, though, I do think it's interesting that terms like that they end up, especially in places like the military, as just a slang that they probably throw around a lot, when they're, making fun of each other and things. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that was a term that happened to just latch on in the period in that context. And so to that
for
end,
people who hadn't read the original play, but maybe they were read too when they were kids or something. And the book had been around.
I doubt Gilmore even knows if Tinkerbell wears boots or not.
Yeah, that's a good.
It's not comics accurate.
Yeah, he really celebrates the boots of the bells of tinker, Tinkerbell, the tinkling bells.
Tinkerbell is the word. Oh my god!
Tinkling bell.
That is a fairy with a bathroom prop.
Tinkerbell. Oh, God.
And I gotta say,
how do we get off on this tangent?
I'm trying to help.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on, guys, we're all on the same team here. I'm surprised he doesn't get if not showered with tomatoes, lynched right there. Just are you kidding me? I've lost my buddies left and right, and you're up here,
Right.
Yeah, we are not on the same team.
I love how it shows how unprepared he is. They probably just psyched him up these guys are going to love you, Steve. Don't worry about it. Just, do your little song and dance and it'll be great. And he has no training for this. And so he defaults back to trying to appeal to their humanity. They just, I'm with you. That's that sort of idea, but just doesn't work when these guys are mostly made up of survivors of a hellish conflict.
Yeah, it speaks so much to the puny Steve, the mentality of little Steve in this situation where, he really hasn't been in a situation where he's able to actually do much combat and put his super soldier powers to use, other than lifting a motorbike, and maybe he's lifting people as kind of a sideshow demonstration sort of thing. And obviously he, stopped Kruger, but really he's not actually doing anything to show what he can actually do. And so I think his brain, his mentality is still probably so much that little puny Steve, his psyche, that he feels uncomfortable in this situation where he's with real soldiers, and he, feels like that little guy who still doesn't quite fit in.
Well, especially the way he blocks those tomatoes. He looks like someone who's afraid of getting hit. Whereas, this time next week, instinct is going to take over and he's going to trust what his body can do. Here, he doesn't know what he can do. But you're exactly right. He's still the little guy. And I like that kind of is shown right there.
And it probably wouldn't have helped if he had said, "I can do this all day," when they were throwing tomatoes at him.
Yeah.
So we have 4 hecklers that are credited. We've got the one guy who calls out at the beginning, "Bring back the girls." He stands up. He's so far in the back that there's no way I can tell who that guy is. Obviously, Gilmore is the nice boots Tinkerbell. We've got the guy who pulls his pants down and moons Steve. And then we have the tomato people. I don't know which one is which, except for Luke Allen Gale. He is the mooner. I can tell you that much. Yeah, the one face that I actually could recognize is the guy who mostly isn't showing his face. But
well, I got to say, unlike Love and Thunder, I appreciate that they cut away from the buttocks. They just cut away from those. You don't need to see those.
Yeah, is this our first almost butt view in the MCU? I can't remember.
Tony didn't do anything
at this point, probably. Yeah.
No, I don't think Tony did a butt view.
We had Tony in bed. Was there a butt view though?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And this is a conversation we should move on from.
Yeah,
so...
yeah. Anyway,
how much of Banner's clothes did he lose?
But the hecklers are Ronan Raftery, Nick Hendricks, Luke Allen Gale, who I mentioned, and Jack Gordon. Those are the 4 who actually got credited. So, I looked them up. None of them have kind of big careers, robust careers. So I didn't do the IMDb game with them. But it's nice to see. And like so many people that probably are filling what we're looking at right now, they're all from the United Kingdom. So makes perfect sense. And then at the end of this, we go to, Steve gets off the stage. He has this brief conversation with Brandt's aide, who is still trying to pitch him like, this is going to be great. They're going to love you. It's like, he is the worst at selling all of this. And I love the shot. It's a very interesting shot that we get as Steve leaves the back of the stage, and it kind of tilts down to his feet as he goes down the steps, and all the dancers are coming up the steps. It was just an interesting shot, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I wonder why Joe Johnston chose to do that. And I can't help but think that it has to do with kind of like the feet and just the nature of like all the performers and like all these women in these fancy dancing shoes, and of course he's wearing these big red boots. It just felt very performative. Did that shot catch any of you, or is it just me?
For sure.
Every time I play through this, and I've got it looping here as well, but yeah, every time I watched it for taking notes, I just, it lingers on him going down while the ladies go up, and I wondered if there's something significant about that.
It's the visual punchline to the Tinkerbell joke. It is.
Yeah. That's what I think.
I guess, yeah.
Like, what's the difference?
Right? It's got we're lingering on the silly boots.
Yeah.
It feels that's how I've always seen it.
Sure.
Nice boots, Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are nice boots.
They are really nice boots.
And initially, when the three ladies come on stage, I think it's the same three that he holds up in the motorcycle in the previous minute.
I was trying to figure that out, because it is the USA helmet ladies.
They're not in the same order.
Well, It looked like we have two brunettes and a blonde. And from what I could tell, it's very hard to tell because the shot starts moving away from them right away. It looked like there were two blondes and a brunette. And so I couldn't quite tell if it was the exact same three or if I was just kind of misreading the way that they looked.
I think it was. I know in this, when they're on stage, on the previous minute, their clothing went red, white, and blue. Here on the stage, it's like red, blue, and white or something like that. So they're kind of out of order, but I think it is the same three.
Yeah. Well, they will return. We'll have more of our USA ladies. All right. Well, we're going to end this minute with it is now raining, and we see a drawing. Somebody is drawing a monkey with a shield in a Captain America outfit on a high wire with an umbrella. And
it's got to be Loki.
Loki's doing it. I think we should save our conversation about the monkey for tomorrow's minute.
Sure.
Unless there's anything particular. Yeah.
It's not related to the monkey, Andy, but I when I get a chance to talk about microphones across history, I just have to mention, I cannot find the specific manufacturer of this microphone. What we're looking at is the microphone he's talking into is a classic ring and spring microphone. It was one of the early era of electric microphones. And it was a company, Western Electric, was a company that ushered in these microphones. And where we are, like the era of these microphones ended really in 1945, right? Because then everything went magnetic. We figured out capturing sound magnetically, which gave us the next 3 decades. So this microphone, most of the microphones from Western Electric that really started this thing, they started being released in 1925. They were adopted widely in the 30s. And then by 1945, we're looking at the beaten up remains of these like public address microphones. And so that's what we're looking at likely here. It is very difficult to find the one he's using here because it's got a square frame around it, and most of these have round or octagonal frames on them. And so, but I find that very interesting. So there he is, ring and spring, Western Electric microphone, circa 1940,
nice.
Probably 1935. That's all I have to say about that. You may move on.
No, it's actually really interesting. It's a cool design that you rarely see with
very rare. So rare, it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Be a real flex if I came onto the podcast using one of those, right?
Yeah, that would be
impressive.
Guess what I have?
Yes.
Check out my ring and spring.
Ring and spring.
All right, Robin and Travis, remind everyone what you two are up to and where they can find the different shows and things that you're working on.
You can find me on Real Comic Heroes. That's my regular comic book movie review podcast where we started with Superman and the Mole Men from 1951. 7 years ago. And as of this recording, we just reviewed Steel, the Shaquille O'Neal comic book movie. So
From what, 97?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot better than I thought it was going to be.
I saw it. I don't remember it very well.
Yeah, I was going to say I have no comment to that.
It came out when I was a projectionist, so I saw pretty much everything that we were projecting, and I know I watched it, but it's one of those I'm like, just don't know.
I believe that has a young wheelchair-bound Annabeth Gish, correct?
Sure does.
Highlight.
Wow.
I'm hosting Karate Kid Minute, a minute-by-minute breakdown of the Karate Kid franchise, including bonus episodes where we cover Cobra Kai episodes. And also I do Superman and Lois TV Talk, which talks about the CW series, Superman and Lois.
Fantastic. Well, check all that out. We'll have links in the show notes, so you can just click on it. It'll take you right to their site, and you can check them out. We'll be back tomorrow for Minute 53. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Maybe tomorrow you'll meet the Ring and Spring Man.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.